Understanding risk, it's all very well, but you've got to do something about it. Hence, back to the drawing board. This session is a panel comprised of practicing engineers who are all pushing the boundaries, trying to turn greater understanding of risk into action. It's not just about building codes, which have traditionally been the mechanism for managing risk. It's also about location. With more and more people living in vulnerable areas, location matters, as does the environment. Dunes, reefs, corals, mangroves, all protect us. Our first speaker will focus on how this plays out in the Turks and Caicos Islands. Updating the building code there after the devastation caused by Hurricane Ike in 2006 has been a necessary first step, but it's meaningless because there are no land use plans. There's very little environmental legislation. So she's going to talk about how you develop a roadmap to move a small island nation to a safe small island nation, and how you do that in a way that's straightforward so that local developers, builders, and engineers can understand it. We then go on to talk in a very different context about how in other parts of the world, people are saying that building codes aren't helping because they focus on life safety, whereas in fact, building owners and occupiers are more concerned about whether they can use their building after a disaster, and concerned that the cost of repairs may be prohibitive. We've seen this in Christchurch, New Zealand, where numerous damaged buildings have had to be demolished. Damage to so-called non-structural components, which engineers don't normally worry about, can quite often be the biggest contributor to repair costs and the biggest obstacle to reoccupying a building. Hence, we're focusing on understanding how buildings perform, and also how do we communicate risk to people who are commissioning buildings so the risk can be discussed in terms like, how much is it going to cost to fix that? Or how long can my building return to operation? But we're not just worried about buildings, we're worried about people. In the global north, and in the developed world generally, the number of people losing their lives from disaster has reduced if you take account of population growth. But elsewhere, it's increasing. And it's set to increase more, not least due to poor quality construction in rapidly urbanizing cities. Any one of these could be the first million-death earthquake, and that is a reality. So there's efforts to understand what actually causes casualties in events. Earthquakes don't kill people, building collapse does. And we've seen in Aceh, in Chile, in Japan, that earthquakes cause tsunamis. And with more and more people living in coastal areas, more and more people are vulnerable. But it's also the human factors of how people react in an earthquake, whether they run away or whether they watch the tsunami coming in, and how the search and rescue crew operate. The common factor in all of this is location, it's geography. We need to understand the contextual factors better. And our final speaker is going to talk about how we're increasingly using GIS technology to build models that include buildings and include occupants and put them all together so we can actually predict how the future will play out. These models are new and different because they're based on real data, on buildings, on infrastructure. And because they're recognizable to people, they're serving as a really effective communication tool. People can understand risk in terms of recognizing where they live and relating to it. But the newest addition to these models is people. We're not just modeling the built environment, we're modeling people. And we're not just modeling people based on historical data, but as avatars, using the same type of technology that's used in computer games, where people react to changes in their environment. It's all exciting stuff. Most importantly, all of it is real. It's not hypothetical. So if you don't want to go to the drones talk, we're going to head with that with a dose of reality. As I said, the eminent panel are all engineers. They're all practitioners, and they're all striving to really push the boundaries about what we can do about risk today. So I hope to see you all in room D at 3:30 on Wednesday. Thank you.